and I was doing some research on how to do pure white backgrounds, and I can't remember where I got it from, but I definitely remember something or someone saying you want it 2 stops brighter on the background, and I did a video saying that. And the awesome Frank Dorhoff, have you had Frank on?
Oh, yes, I know Frank. Yeah, he's been on a couple of times. Yeah.
Frank is amazing. Love Frank. Yeah. He's wonderful. So he put a note saying, a little comment saying, great video, but that's wrong. You should do this. And I was like, And he was right. I was totally wrong. So I had to go and make another video to explain, how to do it correctly using Frank's method, which is pop the light meter on the back of the subject's head and balance them up.
Right.
It's a brilliant technique that I've used many times and credited Frank every time, almost. And it's good, but that still happens. People still say, not from my video necessarily, but still give that wrong information. It's amazing how if you say something wrong in a video and your video goes viral, you could be responsible for getting it wrong for a long time afterwards. So, that was an important lesson to me, that.
There also, something like this is actually a really good example. Perfect white backgrounds. How do you meter for the background? There's about 10 different methods as to how you can do it. There's
one. There's Frank's. That's it. There are no other methods. It's Frank's way or no way.
Exactly. So the thing is, like, I remember talking to Gary Hughes about it, and he does this thing where he basically meters sort of 4 or 5 different places on the backdrop, and then gets his, and then he uses a little formula and blah blah blah. And I used to think like, well, it works for him, but it's just way too complicated. My brain doesn't work like that. I did just one thing, and the back of the head method, yes, works every time. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but that's the nice thing about the photography community as well. There are knowledgeable people like Frank who are prepared to give their time to everybody else. It's great. So it's a lovely place to be.
Yeah, and that's it's like you said, exactly right. The photography community, especially over the last, 10, 15 years or something, seems to have really opened up. Whereas in the long past, I don't know, it feels like there were more guarded secrets, and now really everything is open. Everything's there. I mean, YouTube is you can just, no matter what it is we want to know, there's like a million different videos on a particular subject.
There are, yes. I learned everything I know about photography from two sources. One was the local library. So whatever books on photography were in my local library, I read them. That's that. And the second one was the bloke I sat next to at the camera club. And that's pretty much it. That's where I learned the vast majority of my basic photography skills. But now you can learn from all over the place, from people that are no longer with us, people that are up and coming. There's such a wealth of knowledge. The trick is not to take one source, just to pick and choose between the different things. Find your own style, find your own feet, find your own direction. And now it's a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah, I mean, all the information is out there. The one problem with it sometimes is that it's very difficult to find like a structured approach. Especially, I mean, YouTube is it's kind of a victim of its own success in many ways in that respect. You've got a gazillion different videos on photography, and you go to YouTube, you find one, you watch that, and then the question is, well, where do I go from here? And it's very confusing. Unlike, for instance, let's just say, for argument's sake, a university course, for example, where each lesson builds on the other one. There's a structured path. The learning path is all set out. You build up your knowledge like a Lego brick house. One brick fits onto the next. And so by the end of it, you've literally covered all of it, and you've got a broad understanding of the subject. YouTube doesn't really quite work like that in many instances. And so it can get confusing. This is one thing actually I've really noticed over the last maybe 5 or 6 years or something, is that especially when it comes to workshops. So the kind of workshops that I do in camera clubs is quite interesting. They're mainly based around lighting. So it's really not, to be honest, it's not too dissimilar to what you do. But what I found is like amongst the participants, there are always gaping holes in the knowledge somewhere. Like somebody might know this bit really well, but then there's a massive hole in something else, and then somebody else has a lot of knowledge, but for some reason nobody really has a completely coherent understanding of everything. And that's sort of, I think that's a result of the sort of YouTube culture in a sense.
Yeah, but then I don't think that's a bad thing. I think if you knew everything, it would be where do you go from there? That's it. I know everything. And nobody knows everything. I certainly don't. There's massive holes in my knowledge, and I avoid those holes as much as I can. But occasionally you want to try and do something different. So video is a perfect example. I've learnt video over the years, and every time I've needed a new skill, I've gone onto YouTube to learn that one specific skill. So I think perhaps the secret isn't trying to learn everything. It's trying to learn what you need to know and then master that and move on. So you can become overwhelmed in education of any form. So learn a bit, master it. Once you've used it and you need a bit more, go learn something else. But also put it into practice. That's the key, isn't it? Have a go.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Well, the have a go bit is super important. I think, you just won't know. This is the problem, because you don't know what you don't know yet until you actually put it into practice, and you very quickly then find out what you don't know. That's always the thing.
I mean, there's wise words out there about, if you're making YouTube videos, the first one will be terrible, the second one will be terrible, the third one will be terrible. In fact, they're continuously terrible until you get to 30, 40, 50. I mean, I'm sure it's the same with podcasts as well. If you listen 100%. To your first podcast, it's kind of like, oh, that was painful, the audio's bad, the questions are stilted, and but that's the point. You kind of keep going forward. Sometimes I guess it's good to look back and just see how far you've come, but don't worry. We're all absolutely terrible. You should see my early portraits. Somewhere there is an album of my really early portraits in the late 1980s, and they were absolutely terrible.
Yeah. Well, see, I mean, this is the thing. I remember, I got into photography in in and around 2013, when I sort of made some life-changing decisions, and I just went back to what my dad and my grandmother had done before me. I just stepped out of music and into photography for some reason. It was pre-programmed. There was no way of escaping the family curse. I think that's how I see it. But I remember getting into it, and of course, we're already very, very firmly based in the world of digital photography at that point. And I remember thinking, oh, this is actually pretty good. I think I can do something with that. And I was really happy with the images that I was producing at the time. Of course, when I look back at them now, oh my God, I mean, terrible.
But did they make you happy at the time?
Yeah, I was actually...
There we go. That's it, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
The purpose. For most of us, this isn't a job. This is fun. And if it isn't fun, then you're not doing it right. And the key is to enjoy what you're doing. I mean, we could all get better. We could all look at things and kind of go, next time. But if you're enjoying it at the time, I used to ask people on my workshops. I had this real worry when I did workshops. Why were people coming? What were they going to do with these photos? And there was one old guy who just changed my whole view of workshops. And he said, I'm only here because I enjoy it. I was like, well, what are you going to do with the photos? Probably nothing, but I'm having a great time. I was like, yeah, of course you are. I mean, of course you are. Of course, that makes sense. That makes complete sense. It doesn't matter what you're going to do with the photos if you're enjoying the experience along the way.